I went through the comments on this channel, the pantry photos people send me, and the setups I've seen described in detail across hundreds of messages from this community. Then I ran them against one simple test. Would this pantry actually sustain a household for 14 days under real conditions? Not in theory, in practice. 8 out of 10 failed. Not because people didn't try, because almost everyone makes the same handful of structural mistakes, and those mistakes are invisible until the moment they matter. Today I'm walking through the 10 failure points I found most often, ranked by how badly they wreck a stockpile when they're actually tested. 10. The vegetable-heavy pantry. This is the most common setup I see, and it looks responsible. Shelves of canned corn, green beans, mixed vegetables, the stuff that feels like real food. The problem: a 15-ounce can of mixed vegetables contains roughly 80 to 100 calories. A household needs 2,000 calories per adult per day. To hit that target from vegetables alone, you'd need 20 cans per person per day. Nobody has that much shelf space. The pantries that fail this audit first are the ones built around what looks healthy, instead of what's calorie-dense. Vegetables are a supplement layer. Rice, beans, and oats are the foundation. If your foundation is vegetables, you're already failing before day 3. 9. No non-electric cooking method. I see entire pantries built around food that assumes a working stove. Rice that needs 20 minutes of simmering. Dried beans that need an hour. Pasta, all correct choices, paired with zero plan for cooking them without power. A $24.97 Coleman propane camp stove, and 2 16-ounce propane canisters at $4.97 each gives you roughly 4 hours of cook time, enough for 2 weeks of meals if you're efficient. Without this, your entire pantry becomes a collection of food you can't actually prepare. This is the single most common gap I found, and it's also the cheapest one to fix. 8. Single water storage method. Most pantries I checked store water exactly one way, bottled. In the original packaging, nothing else. That's fine until the bottles run out, and a 16.9-ounce bottle gives one person less than a day's recommended intake. The pantries that passed this part of the audit have layered water strategy, stored bottled water for the first 72 hours, a larger storage container for the following week, and a treatment method, calcium hypochlorite or a gravity filter, for anything beyond that. Single method water storage is a 2-week sealing disguised as a 30-day plan. But the next failure point is the one that surprised me most, because it has nothing to do with what's on the shelf. 7. No inventory list. I asked several people in the comments what was actually in their stockpile. Most couldn't answer without walking to the pantry and counting. That sounds minor. It isn't. In an actual emergency, you don't have time to inventory your own supplies. You need to already know what you have, what's missing, and how long it lasts. A pantry without a written inventory is a pantry you're guessing about. The fix costs nothing. A single sheet taped inside the pantry door listing item, quantity, and purchase date. Updated every time you add or remove something. This takes 10 minutes to set up and saves you from discovering gaps at the worst possible moment. 6. Protein deficiency. This is the failure point that shows up almost universally. Most pantries are carbohydrate heavy: rice, pasta, crackers, cereal, and severely short on protein. Sustained low protein intake over 1 to 2 weeks causes measurable muscle loss, reduced immune function, and slower wound healing. The fix: canned chicken at $2.48 a can, canned chicken at $2.98, dried lentils at $1.68 a pound for 1,200 calories and significant plant protein. Most pantries I audited had a 5-to-1 ratio of carbohydrate calories to protein calories. The target ratio for sustained function is closer to 3-to-1. This single category gap is responsible for more pantry failures than almost anything else I checked. 5. No pet food plan. I almost left this off the list because it's not technically a human survival issue, but it's a documented household failure point. In post-disaster surveys, households with pets that ran out of pet food consistently reported feeding pets from human emergency stores within the first week, which silently cut into calculated supply windows. A 30-pound bag of dry dog food runs $24.97 and stores for up to a year sealed. If you have pets and haven't accounted for them separately, your human food calculations are wrong by an amount you haven't measured. 4. Medication gap. This is the failure point that turns a manageable crisis into a medical emergency. Most pantries I reviewed had zero plan for prescription medication continuity. If a household member takes a daily medication, most insurance plans allow an emergency refill request citing anticipated supply disruption. This needs to happen before a crisis, not during one. Beyond prescriptions, a basic stocked supply of ibuprofen, acetaminophen, anti-diarrheal medication, and electrolyte packets addresses the most common medical issues in an extended food and water disruption. None of this requires a doctor visit. It requires a $15 trip to the pharmacy aisle that most people never make. 3. Everything stored in one location. I found this in roughly half the pantries described to me. The entire stockpile in a single room, single closet, or single shelf unit. If that location becomes inaccessible, flooding, structural damage, fire, the entire stockpile is gone simultaneously. The fix doesn't require a second house. It requires splitting 20 to 30% of your supply into a separate location, a vehicle, a different floor, a secondary closet. This single change is the difference between losing everything and losing a portion. The next one is the failure point almost nobody thinks to check until it's already too late, and by then there's no fixing it. 2. No manual tools. Pantries built entirely around electric appliances, can openers, coffee grinders, water filtration systems that require a power outlet, fail completely the moment power is lost, regardless of how much food is stored. A manual can opener costs $3.97. A hand crank coffee grinder costs $12.97. A gravity-fed water filter requires no power at all. Every electric-dependent tool in your kitchen needs a manual backup, or the food behind it becomes inaccessible exactly when you need it most. 1. No rotation discipline. This is the failure point that undoes every other correct decision on this list. I covered the full system in a previous video, but the summary matters here. A pantry without active rotation isn't a stockpile, it's a slowly expiring pile of money. Even a household that gets every other item on this list right will still fail the audit if rotation isn't happening, because 18 months from now, a meaningful percentage of that food will be past safe use, regardless of how well it was chosen. 8 out of 10. That's not a guess. That's the pattern across every pantry I've reviewed in detail. The 2 that passed had one thing in common. They treated the pantry as a system, not a shopping list. If you want the complete checklist to audit your own setup against all 10 of these points, it's linked in the description, free. If you haven't seen the rotation video I referenced in point 1, that's the next logical watch. It covers exactly how to fix the discipline gap that undoes everything else. Link is below. Run the audit on your own pantry this week. Most people are surprised by what they find.